Alright, so in this lesson I'm going to start talking about the piece of code sculptor that's going to allow us to do all the game building that we want to do. So the piece that I'm going to be talking about is called Simple GUI. A GUI, or a graphical user interface, is basically the stuff that you interact with on a regular, like Windows or Mac kind of interface. So it includes things like windows and menus and icons and all different controls like text boxes and buttons and things like that. It also involves in things like a canvas area where you can do drawing, and that's going to be important in Code Sculptor. So let's start with this. When you open up Code Sculptor, if you just go to codesculptor.org, you automatically kind of get this little sample program. So let's start taking a look at that in some detail. So if we click Run on this guy, you see it brings up this this screen. It has a button over here and the word Welcome, and if you click the button, it clicks over and says Good job. So let's take a look. So basically, what you're seeing is there's this control area where it has the Click Me button, okay, and status area will track key and mouse information. So if you press a key or if you click the mouse someplace, that'll show up over here. And the canvas is the area where things get drawn, where all the action happens. Okay, so let's compare this with MicroWorlds a little bit. So this window in Code Sculptor is called a frame. Okay, so that's the window that holds this control panel here that has the buttons and all that, and it can have input text fields and things like that. And there's this status area, like I said before. Let me see if I can get the status area to do something over here. If I go and I press a key, maybe I have to. Oh no, it's not running right now. So I'm clicking and nothing's happening. So we have to do stuff to make that actually register our events. So we'll do that in a later video. But when you have it set up to register key events and mouse events, it'll do that. What else? Oh, and the graphics are drawn over here. So basically, if we compare this with MicroWorlds, so here's in MicroWorlds I have something that's doing more or less the same thing. So in MicroWorlds we have this main window section here, and this does everything that the canvas and the control area do. So in Code Sculptor, the controls, like the buttons and the text inputs and stuff like that, are in this separate area, the separate control panel, and the action happens here in the canvas. In MicroWorlds, all you have is the main window, and you put your buttons and all your control things in that window, and then you work from there. Okay, so and we'll see later on. I mean, you can do things like click on things in the Code Sculptor canvas and stuff like that, just like you can make turtles that you can click on, but you just the buttons in Code Sculptor are in a separate panel. The standard built-in buttons and input fields and stuff are over here. But okay, so in Micro Worlds, if we wanted to make this program that, if you click on the so in Code Sculptor, if you click on the Click Me button, it says good job. Okay, in Micro Worlds, if we wanted to do something like that, we could have so I had a little startup procedure that sets things up. It sets the text to be welcome. Okay, let me make this a little bigger. Okay, so it's the startup text just says welcome. So when you open up this project, you'll see it'll do this procedure, and then we have this procedure handle click me that says set text to good job. And what I did was in my click me button, I have the instruction handle click me, so that it's going to fire this this procedure right here. And when I click on the button, so I click here and see it says it's going to set text to good job. So if I say click me, changes the text to good job. Okay, so that's kind of the steps that we need to think about in Micro Worlds, right? We have this initialization kind of thing where we set everything up to begin with. Then we have some kind of a procedure to say what we're going to do, how we're going to handle the button click, and then we have to stick that procedure name in here in the instruction so that it'll actually happen. Okay, so let's take a look at Code Sculptor and see how all that plays out in Code Sculptor. So in Code Sculptor, the first thing we need to do is this import simple GUI. Okay, so the way to think about it is, there's this there are modules in Python. We call them modules that are kind of like libraries of functions that have been written by somebody else. Basically, is maybe a way to think about it. So in how in Micro Worlds there are already a bunch of built-in procedures, right? All these things that you can look up in the vocabulary and see how to do, like forward and all those things, forward and back, and all the things that are built in. So anything that you can find in the Help Center vocabulary, like the set things or whatever, those are all the built-in functions that Micro Worlds already knows. So there are a bunch of functions in this simple GUI module. To be able to use those functions, you have to import simple GUI. So that's the first thing you need to do. For all your games, you're going to need to do this import simple GUI. Then we're setting up a global variable message that says welcome. Okay, and what we're doing here is just like we had that procedure handle click in Micro Worlds. We have a click function right here. That's what we're going to do when we click the button. Okay, and basically all it does is it sets up global message. So remember, we need to have this global message in here so that when we change message, we know we're referring to this guy up here, this global variable. So it'll change it to good job. All right, and then the way we add the button. Well, okay. Oh yeah. So one thing that's really important, there's another thing that's really important here, and I'll talk about this draw handler in a second, but in Micro Worlds, you already have your main window when you open up your project. In Code Sculptor, the frame does not appear until you create it. you have to create the frame, okay, and then add a button to it that says click me. And notice right here, this is the label on the button, okay. So if we look at microworlds and look at this click me button, there's two pieces to it, right? There's a label, or two things that we have to enter. There's a label and there's an instruction, okay. So every button gets a label and an instruction. So it's the same thing in Code Sculptor. When we add a button, we have to give the label, okay, which is a string. Notice the quotes in front and back. And then the instruction is the name of the function that's going to handle the click, the button click, okay. So we create the frame right here, and when we're creating the frame, we're giving it a name and a size, okay, 300 by 200, then there's this thing called the draw handler. So far this part, I mean, well, creating the frame is something that's different that we have to do, right? But adding the button is very similar. A very similar idea. I mean, you have to write the code for adding the button, so you don't open up a button object and stick in the label and the instruction. But it's very similar in the sense that you're basically, when you say frame dot, that's saying I want to talk to the frame. Okay, so the frame is the object I'm talking to right now, and what I want the frame to do is add a button with this label and this instruction. Okay, so it's different from how things are done in microworlds, but it's a similar idea, right? Because you're adding a button with a label and an instruction, and then you just you write the handler like this. And this is really should be. It is a mouse click, but you're clicking on the button, right? So this is handling the button. And then we have this other handler here, which is called the draw handler, and I'm going to talk about that in the next video. But notice there's a draw handler, and we set draw handler, and in order to start up the frame, we have to call frame start. So we'll talk about those details in the next video.